The capture. John Carter's head throbbed as he opened his eyes. The cold metal floor pressed against his skin. His arms felt weak, his legs numb. Blinking against the harsh blue lights above, he tried to sit up, but pain shot through his muscles. Where am I? He looked around. The room was small, metallic, and completely empty except for a single door with glowing red symbols. It wasn't Earth. That much was clear. The air smelled strange, like burnt metal, and something sour. Suddenly, the door slid open with a hiss. A massive figure stepped inside. 7 feet tall, covered in dark, armored skin, with glowing yellow eyes that studied him like a scientist observing an insect. The alien's voice was deep and rough. "You are awake." "Good." John's body tensed. He didn't recognize the language, but somehow he understood the words. He glanced at his arm and noticed a small metal device embedded just below his wrist. A translator. He had no memory of getting it. The alien stepped closer, towering over him. "You are John Carter, a human. According to Galactic Law, you are now my property." John's breath caught in his throat. Property? His hands clenched into fists. "I don't belong to anyone," he growled, forcing himself to stand despite the dizziness. The alien's expression didn't change. "You do not have a choice." John took a step back, his mind racing. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. He had been on his ship, exploring a new system. Then, nothing. Had they captured him? How? "Where am I? What do you want from me?" John demanded. The alien tilted its head. "You are on my ship, the Vornak. You were taken from your vessel while unconscious. Humans are classified as a low-intelligence species. You have no rights under galactic law. You belong to me now." John's stomach twisted. He was an explorer, a scientist, a soldier. But here, he was nothing. His hands curled into fists. "That law is wrong." The alien finally smiled. It wasn't friendly. "The law does not care about your opinion." John's heart pounded. He scanned the room for a weapon, an exit, anything. There was nothing. He had to think. He had to stay calm. "What do you expect me to do?" he asked, trying to buy time. The alien motioned toward the door. "You will serve me. You will clean, repair, and obey." John gritted his teeth. "Like hell I will." He needed a way out. Now. His eyes flicked to the alien's belt. Some kind of energy weapon was strapped there. A shock baton. If he could grab it. The alien turned slightly, and John lunged. His fingers barely brushed the baton before pain exploded through his body. A blinding blue light crackled around him. And he collapsed, muscles locking up as a powerful shock tore through him. His body convulsed on the floor, his vision blurring. The alien watched him struggle, amusement in its glowing eyes. "Did you really think that would work?" John gasped for air as the shock faded, his body weak, but his mind still burning with rage. The alien crouched down, its massive face inches from his own. Humans always resist at first. It is entertaining. But you will learn. You will obey, or you will suffer. John met the alien's gaze, defiance burning in his eyes. "I will never be your slave." The alien smirked. "We shall see." The door hissed open again, and 2 more aliens stepped in. They were smaller than the first, but their expressions were cold and emotionless. They grabbed John's arms, dragging him to his feet. His legs barely supported him, but he refused to let them see his weakness. The first alien, his new owner, watched with amusement. Take him to his quarters. Let him understand his new reality. John was pulled out of the room and down a long metallic hallway. He gritted his teeth, his mind working furiously. He needed a plan. He needed to survive. And most of all, he needed to escape. No matter what it took. The resistance begins. John Carter lay on the cold metal floor of his new prison, his so-called quarters. His muscles still ached from the electric shock, and his head throbbed with frustration. The room was barely large enough to stretch his legs. The dim blue light flickered above, casting eerie shadows across the metallic walls. A small vent in the corner let in stale, recycled air, and the only exit was a solid door that had no visible handle or keypad. A cage. He sat up slowly, testing his limbs. The pain had faded, but his anger burned hotter than ever. Property. The word echoed in his mind like a curse. John had read about slavery in Earth's history books, but never in his worst nightmares had he imagined himself as one. He clenched his fists. They think I will break. They have no idea what humans are capable of. A loud hiss filled the room. The door slid open, and two smaller aliens entered. They were different from the one who had claimed ownership over him. These had sleek, blue-gray skin, elongated heads, and 4 arms each. They carried shock batons at their waists, and their movements were efficient, robotic. One of them tossed a small gray jumpsuit at John. "Wear this," the alien ordered in a monotone voice. John didn't move. The second alien pressed a button on its wrist, and John's translator implant buzzed painfully. A sharp sting shot through his skull, making him wince. "Refusal will bring pain," the alien said. John exhaled through his nose, forcing himself to stay calm. He needed more information. If he resisted too early, he would never get a chance to escape. Slowly, he picked up the jumpsuit and put it on. The fabric was thin, rough against his skin. The first alien nodded. "Follow." John was led through a series of corridors, all identical, gray, lifeless, with no windows. The ship felt more like a floating prison than a vessel. They passed other doors like his, and for a brief moment, he heard voices, other prisoners, other slaves. Finally, they reached a large chamber. The ceiling stretched high above, metal pipes running along the walls. Machines hummed, and dozens of aliens, different species, moved around, working on consoles, lifting crates, repairing damaged equipment. The air smelled of oil and sweat. A voice rang out. "The human is here." John turned. Psylocke stood at the far end of the room, arms crossed, watching him like a predator watching prey. The alien smirked. "Welcome to your new life, human." John said nothing. His eyes flicked around, scanning the exits, the guards, the weapons they carried. Every detail mattered. Psylocke stepped closer. "Your kind is stubborn, I will admit, but you will learn. Work well, and your life will be easy. Disobey, and you will suffer." John held Psylocke's gaze. "If you think I'll just accept this, you don't understand humans." Psylocke chuckled. "Oh, I understand humans. You are weak, fragile, but you can be useful." He gestured to a large machine in the center of the chamber. "That generator needs repairs. Do it." John frowned. "I don't take orders." Psylocke sighed and pressed a button on his wrist. John's implant buzzed again, this time sending a sharp jolt through his skull. He gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. Psylocke's smirk widened. "You will take orders. Now, work." John clenched his fists but stepped toward the machine. He had no tools, no instructions, but he wasn't about to let them see him struggle. He crouched down, examining the open panel, wires exposed, circuits sparking. It was old technology, surprisingly simple. "I can do this, but I need to do more than fix machines. I need a way out." As he worked, he kept his ears open. The other workers moved quietly, their eyes dull, defeated. They had given up. "Not me," John thought. "Never me." A whisper reached his ear. "You are different." John froze but kept his face neutral. Slowly, he turned his head. An alien, a tall, thin creature with dark green scales, was working beside him. Its eyes flicked toward the guards before looking back at John. "You do not belong here," the alien whispered again. "I see it in your eyes." John met the alien's gaze. "Help me," he whispered back. The alien hesitated, then gave a tiny nod. Not yet. They watched too closely. But there is hope. John's heart pounded. A possible ally. A chance. Xylox's voice interrupted. Faster, human. John forced himself to focus. He completed the repairs quickly, using his knowledge of mechanics. When the generator roared back to life, Xylox raised an eyebrow. Interesting. You have skill. That will make you valuable. John didn't respond. He had done what they wanted, but every second, he was planning, watching, waiting. This wasn't his life. This wasn't his future. He was not a slave. And he would never stop fighting. The first fight. John Carter had spent days, maybe weeks, on this cursed ship. There was no way to tell time and space. The artificial lights never changed. The recycled air smelled the same, and every day was a repeat of the last. Forced labor, pain, exhaustion, and humiliation. But John was patient. He watched, he listened, he planned. The aliens running this ship thought of him as just another mindless worker. They underestimated humans. That was their first mistake. The turning point. John's daily shift had just ended. His body ached from working on the ship's mechanical systems, but his mind remained sharp. As he walked through the narrow corridors back to his cell, he saw something new. 2 guards were escorting a new prisoner. John slowed his steps, pretending to adjust his jumpsuit. He studied the newcomer. A human. His heart nearly stopped. Another human. She was young, maybe in her mid-20s, with short, dark hair and defiant eyes. But her arms were restrained by a shock collar, and she had bruises on her face. She had clearly fought back. John's hands clenched into fists. The guards dragged her toward a separate holding area. John acted fast. He turned toward the guard next to him. "Who is she?" he asked, keeping his voice casual. The alien barely glanced at him. "Not your concern, human." John nodded, memorizing the hallway where they took her. The plan begins. That night, John couldn't sleep. A human. A potential ally. Someone who could fight beside him. But she was locked away. He had to act. Over the last few days, he had learned something useful. The guards were arrogant. They didn't expect humans to fight back. They treated them like livestock, assuming their shock buttons were enough to control them. John had been waiting for the right moment. This was it. He had memorized the guard shifts, the patrol routes. There was a small window where the hallway outside his cell was left unwatched for about 30 seconds between shift changes. 30 seconds was all he needed. That night, he positioned himself near the door and waited. 3, 2, 1. The light flickered in the hallway as the first guard stepped away, just before the next arrived. John moved. He slipped out, pressing himself against the wall, heart pounding. If he was caught, they'd kill him, or worse. He navigated the halls, keeping to the shadows. The ship was massive, but he had studied its layout. Reaching the holding area, he spotted a single guard standing outside a reinforced door. The alien was distracted, looking at a screen, its weapon dangling loosely from its belt. John exhaled slowly. This was it. Time to fight. The first strike. John lunged. Before the guard could react, he grabbed its shock baton and slammed it into the alien's side. The guard yelped, stumbling back. John spun the baton in his hand. It was heavier than he expected, but powerful. The guard recovered quickly, baring sharp teeth. It swung its massive fist at John's head. John ducked. He jabbed the baton into the alien's gut and activated the charge. A blue energy surge crackled through the guard's body. It collapsed, twitching. John stood over the unconscious alien, breathing hard. This was the first real fight he had won since being captured. And it felt good. Rescue. He turned to the door and saw a keypad. His mind raced. He had seen the guards use these before. He knelt beside the unconscious alien, searching its belt. A pass card. He grabbed it, swiped it across the keypad. The door slid open. Inside, the woman sat against the wall, her shock collar blinking red. She looked up, eyes sharp and calculating. "Who the hell are you?" she asked. "John Carter," he said, stepping inside. "I'm getting you out of here." She smirked. "Took you long enough." John quickly examined the collar on her neck. It had a small control panel. He had no idea how to deactivate it. If he messed up, it might explode or inject her with something lethal ****. The woman saw his hesitation. "There's a tool in that guard's belt. Looks like a small silver stick. It disables the collars." John moved fast, searching the unconscious alien's belt again. There, a small cylindrical device. He pressed it against the collar. A beep. A click. The collar unlocked and fell to the floor. The woman stood up, rolling her shoulders. "Now," she said, stretching her sore arms, "let's break some more bones." John grinned. "I like the way you think." The alarm. Suddenly, loud sirens blared through the halls. The ship's alert system had detected the escape. Footsteps, voices. The guards were coming. The woman grabbed the fallen baton from the unconscious alien and twirled it. "I hope you have a plan." John smirked. "Yeah, don't die." The hallway outside flooded with armed guards. John gripped his weapon. The woman stood beside him, ready to fight. The alien sneered. "Surrender now, humans." John wiped the sweat from his brow. "Come and take us." Then the battle began. The unexpected ally. The ship's corridors erupted into chaos. John Carter's heart pounded as he swung the shock baton, striking an alien guard across the chest. The creature let out a gurgled cry before collapsing. Sparks flew from the flickering hallway lights as alarms blared through the ship. Beside him, the woman fought like a wild animal. She moved fast, dodging, twisting, striking with precision. She wasn't just another prisoner. She had training. A guard lunged at her. She ducked under its swinging baton, grabbed its arm, and snapped its wrist with brutal efficiency. The alien howled in pain before she silenced it with a sharp kick to the head. John stared. "You're not just a random captive, are you?" She wiped sweat from her brow, smirking. "Nope. Name's Riley. Special Forces, Earth Defense. Or at least I was before these bastards grabbed me." Another wave of guards appeared at the end of the corridor, weapons raised. Riley sighed. "No time for introductions. Move." John and Riley sprinted down the halls as laser blasts sizzled through the air, scorching the walls behind them. They needed to get out. Fast. Trapped like rats. They turned a corner, only to skid to a halt. Dead end. A massive metal door blocked their escape. Riley pounded on it, checking the control panel. "It's locked. We need a key." John cursed under his breath. They had no way to override the system. The guards were closing in. "We have to fight," John said, gripping his weapon. Riley nodded. "Then we make them bleed." The guards stormed in, 8 of them, fully armed. John braced himself. Then, the lights flickered and died. Darkness swallowed the hallway. For a moment, everything was silent except for the low hum of the ship. The guards hesitated, muttering in their alien tongue. Then, a deep voice echoed through the darkness. "Humans, you fight well." John tensed. The voice was close, but he couldn't see anything. A sharp hiss of air. A soft thud. Then, one of the guards let out a choked gasp. John heard a body hit the floor. Then another. Something was taking them out. One by one, the guards let out strangled cries, their weapons clattering to the ground. John gripped his baton tighter. Was this a rescue, or something worse? Riley whispered, "What the hell is that?" A soft glow suddenly illuminated the room. The emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in a dull red hue. And then they saw him. The ghost of the Vornak. Standing over the fallen guards was a towering figure, cloaked in darkness. His skin was rough, grayish-blue, and scarred from battle. His eyes gleamed a deep, glowing green, and a long, jagged blade dripped with alien blood. He was no ordinary prisoner. John recognized the insignia on the alien's tattered uniform, a symbol of the old Galactic Empire. A soldier. Riley exhaled sharply. "I know who you are. You're Ralvok, the Butcher of Thalven." John frowned. "The what?" Ralvok's gaze snapped to Riley. "That title is a lie. A story told by cowards." John wasn't sure what to believe, but one thing was clear. This alien was dangerous. Ralvok sheathed his blade and turned to them. "You wish to escape?" John crossed his arms. "Obviously. Unless you prefer to stay in this floating hellhole." Ralvok studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Follow me." John hesitated. Trusting an unknown alien was risky, but they had no better option. Riley gave a small shrug. "We don't have a choice, Carter." John sighed. "Fine, but if you betray us, I'll make sure you regret it." Ralvok actually smirked. "I would expect nothing less from a human." The hidden truth. Ralvok led them through a series of hidden maintenance tunnels, avoiding patrols. As they walked, he spoke in a low, measured voice. "This ship is more than just a slaver vessel. It is part of something much bigger." John frowned. "Bigger how?" Ralvok's expression darkened. "The Galactic Trade Council, the ones who enforce these laws, have been running secret experiments on captured species, humans included." John's stomach twisted. "Experiments?" Ralvok nodded. "They fear humanity. You are a young species, yet already resilient, adaptive. They cannot control you, so they wish to alter you." John's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about slavery. The Trade Council wasn't just selling humans. They were testing on them, changing them. Riley cursed. "Damn it. That means there are more humans here, maybe in worse conditions than us." John gritted his teeth. He couldn't just escape. He had to stop this. Ralvok observed him, then spoke again. "There is a way off this ship, a hidden docking bay. But if you truly wish to end this, we must go deeper." John glanced at Riley. She exhaled sharply. "You already know my answer. Let's burn this place to the ground." John cracked his knuckles. "Then lead the way." Ralvok gave a sharp nod. "Prepare yourselves, humans. The next battle will not be easy." John smirked. "Good. I was starting to get bored." And with that, they disappeared into the darkness, not just escaping, but preparing to bring war to the very people who thought they could own humanity. This wasn't just about survival anymore. The Great Escape. John Carter crouched in the darkness of the maintenance tunnel, his breathing steady but his muscles tense. He, Riley, and Ralvok had one shot at this. One chance to escape, to take the fight back to those who had enslaved them. Above them, the Vornak was alive with activity. The alarm had been blaring for over an hour, red lights flashing in every corridor. The ship's entire security force was hunting them. Ralvok tapped a control panel embedded in the tunnel wall. Pulling up a holographic map of the ship, he traced a long, narrow path with one sharp claw. "This is our route," he said. "We move through the cargo bay, then take an emergency transport to the lower deck. From there, we access the hidden docking bay. The ship has a stealth shuttle. The only way off without getting blasted to pieces." Riley frowned. "And let me guess, security is going to be heavy." Ralvok nodded. "They will be expecting us." John exhaled, gripping the stolen shock baton tighter. "Then let's make them regret it." Ralvok actually chuckled. Spoken like a true warrior. The cargo bay ambush. They emerged from the tunnels into a massive cargo bay, filled with towering metal crates and supply containers. The air smelled of machine oil and stale rations. And then, shouts echoed across the chamber. John barely had time to react before the first laser blast streaked toward him. He threw himself behind a crate as the shot sizzled past his shoulder. They had walked into an ambush. At least 12 armed guards emerged from the shadows, weapons raised. "You are surrounded," a deep alien voice barked. "Surrender now, humans, and you may yet live." John peeked around the crate. They were pinned down, completely outgunned. Damn it. Relvok, however, did not hesitate. With a growl, the massive warrior ripped open a supply crate and yanked out a heavy plasma rifle. "I do not surrender," he rumbled. "I kill." Then he opened fire. The plasma blasts lit up the cargo bay, striking the first few guards before they could react. That was their opening. John and Riley sprang from cover, moving fast. Riley grabbed a grenade from a fallen alien's belt and hurled it toward the nearest enemy squad. Boom! The explosion rocked the chamber, sending guards flying. John tackled an enemy, slamming his shock baton into the alien's throat. The guard collapsed, twitching from the surge of electricity. They fought like animals, like survivors. But more guards were coming. They had to move. Relvok slammed a fist against a control panel, and a cargo door slid open. "Go. I will hold them here." John turned sharply. "What? No. We need you." Relvok shoved him toward the exit. "You will not make it if I go with you. This is my battle. Now run." John clenched his jaw. Relvok turned back to face the incoming wave of guards, raising his rifle. "For my people. For yours." Then he charged into battle. John wanted to stay, to fight beside him. But Riley grabbed his arm. "He made his choice, Carter. We have to go." John swallowed hard. Then, with a final look at Relvok, he turned and ran. The race to the docking bay. John and Riley sprinted down the corridors, alarms still blaring overhead. Riley glanced at the map display on her stolen wrist device. The docking bay is just ahead. They turned the final corner and ran straight into Xylox. The towering alien warlord stood in their path, flanked by 2 massive enforcers. His smirk was cruel. "Going somewhere, human." John barely had time to react before Xylox swung a heavy fist. John ducked, but the force of the punch sent him skidding across the floor. His vision blurred. Riley moved fast, aiming her stolen pistol, but Xylox was faster. With a flick of his wrist, he activated an anti-gravity field. Riley was yanked into the air, suspended and helpless. She struggled, growling in frustration. Damn it. John forced himself to his feet, every muscle aching. Xylox grinned. "You should have accepted your place, Carter. Now, you will be an example." John spat blood onto the floor. "You should have killed me when you had the chance." Then he attacked. Xylox didn't expect it. Humans weren't supposed to be this fast. John ducked under the next strike, grabbing a fallen guard's weapon. A plasma blade. The blue energy crackled to life as John slashed it across Xylox's arm. The alien roared in pain, staggering backward. John didn't stop. He spun the blade, slicing through the anti-gravity generator. With a sharp crackle, Riley dropped to the ground. She rolled onto her feet and immediately shot one of Xylox's enforcers in the head. John went for the other one, driving his blade straight through its chest. One left. Xylox snarled, bleeding but still standing. "You are nothing but an insect, Carter." John leveled his blade. "And you're about to be crushed." Xylox lunged. John dodged. He drove the plasma blade straight through Xylox's gut. The alien gasped, eyes wide. For the first time, he looked afraid. John twisted the blade. "You don't own me." Then he kicked Xylox backward. The alien collapsed, motionless. The escape. The docking bay doors slid open, revealing a sleek stealth shuttle. John and Riley raced inside, sealing the hatch behind them. The control panel flickered to life. Riley slid into the pilot's seat. "You ready for this?" John strapped himself in. Let's get the hell out of here. The engines roared. The docking clamps released. The Vornak's defenses activated, but it was too late. John looked out the viewport as the ship shrank behind them, alarms still blaring. Relvok had bought them time. John clenched his fists. They would come back for him. But for now, they were free. Riley smirked, setting the ship to hyperspace. I don't know about you, Carter, but I say we burn this whole damn system down. John exhaled, staring at the stars. Yeah, let's show them what humans can really do. Then the stars stretched into infinity, and they were gone. The hunt begins. The shuttle's engines hummed smoothly as John and Riley sat side by side, looking out into the endless void. The stars stretched into infinity beyond the small viewport, but the weight of what they had just done hung heavy in the air. The Vornak, the ship that had enslaved them, was a distant memory, now just a faint speck on their star charts. For now, they were free. But John knew it wouldn't last. The Galactic Trade Council had powerful allies, and they would not let their property escape without consequence. He glanced at Riley, who was busy adjusting the shuttle's coordinates. She was a force of nature, quick, deadly, and if John were honest, he'd never met anyone quite like her. But even she couldn't keep them safe forever. Not out here, in the depths of space. How much longer? He asked, his voice tight. Riley's eyes didn't leave the controls. We're still in deep space. It'll take us a while to get to the nearest rebel station. But there's a catch. John raised an eyebrow. A catch. Riley finally looked at him, her face serious. The Trade Council doesn't give up easily. They'll be hunting us, and they won't stop until we're dead. John nodded, feeling the cold truth settle in his chest. So we run. Riley smirked, her eyes glinting with a mixture of defiance and calculation. Oh, we run all right, but not just from them. We're not just surviving. We're going to make them regret ever thinking they could control humanity. The first warning shot. For the next few days, the journey was mostly quiet, too quiet. The stars outside the shuttle became their only company as the drone ship they had stolen hummed along through empty space. But John's instincts told him that the calm was just the eye of the storm, and he was right. One morning, the quiet was shattered by an alarm. The shuttle's alert system blared to life, and an urgent message popped up on the display screen. Warning. Unidentified vessel approaching. Engage evasive maneuvers. Riley's hands were quick on the controls. It's them. The Trade Council has found us. John's heart skipped a beat. He stood up, gripping the back of the seat as the shuttle veered to the left. The view outside the viewport began to warp and twist, the stars stretching as Riley punched in commands to jump to hyperspace. But the unidentified ship was too fast. A massive shadow appeared on the edges of their view, a pursuit ship, sleek and deadly. Its hull was coated in a black material that absorbed the light around it. A stealth vessel. They were being hunted. We can't outrun them. Not like this, Riley muttered, her eyes flicking over the instruments. I need to lose them in the asteroid field ahead. Hold on. The shuttle jerked forward as Riley pushed the engines to their limits. Buckle up, Carter. We're about to get rough. Into the asteroid field. The stars outside were a blur as the shuttle rocketed toward the asteroid belt ahead. Thousands of massive rocks floated in space, some small, some the size of a city. It was a natural maze, and Riley was planning to use it as a weapon. Stay sharp, Riley said as she steered the shuttle between the boulders. One wrong turn, and we're space dust. John nodded, eyes locked on the viewport. He could see the pursuit ship closing in fast. They weren't just trying to catch them. They were trying to kill them. A laser blast whizzed past the shuttle, narrowly missing the left wing. Shit. Riley cursed. They're firing at us. I need more distance. She took a sharp turn to the right, sending the shuttle into a wild corkscrew. The massive asteroid field spun around them, each passing rock a deadly obstacle. John gripped his seat as the ship whipped through narrow gaps, barely avoiding a collision. The enemy ship followed, relentless and precise. But Riley's skills kept them just ahead. Another blast. "We're too slow," John shouted, seeing the enemy ship gain on them. They were closing the distance with every second. The dark betrayal. And then, just as Riley punched the shuttle's thrusters for another evasive maneuver, a sudden flash of light exploded across the console. What the hell? John's mind raced as he looked at the screen, realizing too late what had happened. The pursuit ship had fired a tracking beacon, and it was now embedded in the shuttle's hull. It had been hidden within the laser blast, disguised as an attack. "They've locked onto us," John muttered. "They'll find us no matter where we go now." Riley slammed her fist against the console. Damn it. But then, just as they began to settle into a new plan, a voice crackled through their comm system. "Humans, you cannot run forever." It was the voice of NECA, an agent of the Galactic Trade Council. He was their most feared hunter, known for his relentless pursuit and cruel methods. "Surrender, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and I will make sure you suffer." John's fists clenched. He knew what NECA wanted: to make an example of them, to show the galaxy that defying the Trade Council's will meant death. Riley's jaw set in a grim line. I don't think he understands how stubborn humans can be. "No," John said, eyes narrowing. "I don't think he does." The heart of the rebel network. Days passed, each one filled with constant evasive maneuvers, the constant hum of the shuttle's engines, and the near-daily threats from NECA's forces. The shuttle's fuel levels began to dip dangerously low, and their supplies were running out. But John had a plan, one that involved a secret contact he'd made before he had been captured. There was a rebel network operating in the outer reaches of the galaxy, an underground movement that had been attacking the Trade Council's holdings for years. John and Riley had planned to meet with them after they escaped the Fornac, but now the rebels were their last hope. If they could reach the rendezvous point, they might have a chance. As the shuttle limped toward the desolate planet where they would make contact, the enemy ship was still hot on their trail. Every time they thought they might shake it off, another laser blast would remind them of their pursuers. But they were almost there. The rebel outpost was close, hidden beneath the surface of a barren moon orbiting a dead planet. No one would expect it there. "We make it to the rendezvous point, we're safe. If not..." John trailed off, his gaze fixed on the horizon of stars ahead. "We'll make it," Riley said, her voice steady. "We're not going down without a fight." John nodded. No, not today. The hunter would find them. But they had a plan, and for the first time since their escape, John finally felt like he had the upper hand. The tables were turning, and the hunt had just begun. Humanity fights back. The hidden rebel outpost, buried deep beneath the surface of the barren moon, was unlike anything John Carter had ever seen. The corridors were dark, the air cool and thin, and the walls were reinforced with old scavenged hull plates. It was a place born out of necessity, functional, resourceful, and most of all, secret. The people here didn't need luxury. They needed survival. As John and Riley stepped into the central command room, the hum of alien machinery filled the air. Dozens of figures, some human, others not, moved about the chamber. They were haggard, their faces lined with exhaustion and scars, but their eyes burned with a shared determination. This was more than a band of outlaws. It was a coalition of survivors, bound together by a common goal: to destroy the Galactic Trade Council's grip on the galaxy. Ralvok's sacrifice had not been in vain. They had made it this far, but the hardest part was yet to come. The plan. A tall, broad-shouldered alien stepped forward. His skin was a pale lavender, his sharp features adorned with tribal markings that shimmered faintly under the dim light. He introduced himself as Kalvshar, a former admiral from a species the Trade Council had nearly wiped out. Now he led the rebellion's strategic efforts. "We've been monitoring your escape," Kalvshar said, his voice steady. "You've caused quite a stir. The Council will be more aggressive now. They'll throw everything they have at you, and at us. Riley crossed her arms. Let them come. We'll hit them harder. Cal gave her a grim smile. Easier said than done, but you might be exactly what we need. The Council considers humans a minor species, yet you've already proven them wrong. If we can show that humans are not just survivors, but fighters, we can inspire others to rise up. John finished. He looked at the room of rebels, their wary faces waiting for direction. We can turn this into something bigger. We don't just escape. We fight back. Cal nodded. Exactly. He gestured to a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a sprawling network of Council-controlled space stations, ships, and outposts. At the center of it all was the primary galactic hub, a massive station that housed the Council's most sensitive data, their supply chains, and most importantly, their legal archives. Cal's voice lowered, turning deadly serious. We can't fight them head-on. They outnumber us, outgun us. But if we hit that station, if we destroy the archives and expose their secrets, we can shatter their control. The galaxy needs proof that the Trade Council is corrupt. Once people see the truth, they'll rise against them. Riley leaned over the console, studying the station's schematics. And if they don't? John's jaw tightened. Then we make sure they never enslave anyone else again. The battle begins. It took days of planning and preparation, but when the time finally came, the rebels were ready. Their fleet wasn't much, a patchwork of stolen freighters, repurposed mining vessels, and a handful of retrofitted fighters. But it was enough. John stood on the bridge of their lead ship, a battered cruiser named the Iron Resolve. The crew around him moved with quiet efficiency, their faces hardened with resolve. Cal's voice came over the comms. We'll approach under cover of the asteroid belt. Once we're in range, we'll launch a coordinated strike on their defense grid. That will buy you time to land on the station. Riley smirked, strapping on her gear. Sounds easy enough. John rolled his eyes. Sure. Walk in, blow up the heart of their empire, and walk out. He glanced at her. You ready for this? She grinned. You know it. Breaking the chains. As the fleet emerged from the cover of the asteroid belt, the Council's defenders were waiting. Dozens of sleek, black warships moved into position, their weapons already firing. The sky lit up with streaks of energy bolts and plasma fire. The Iron Resolve shuddered as a blast rocked its hull. John gripped the edge of the console, barking orders to the crew. Divert power to the forward shields. Keep us steady. Cal's voice cut through the chaos. The defense grid is almost down. Keep them occupied for a little longer. On the view screen, John watched as the smaller rebel ships darted between the larger Council vessels, firing bursts of plasma and releasing drones that disrupted enemy targeting systems. The Council forces weren't used to fighting an enemy that didn't play by their rules. And then, finally, the grid's down. Riley and John jumped into the shuttle that would take them directly to the station. As they descended toward the galactic hub, explosions rippled across the station's surface. The rebels had breached their outer defenses. John felt his pulse quicken as the shuttle landed hard in one of the station's hangars. The hatch opened, and he and Riley charged out into the chaos. The station's interior was in total disarray. Sirens wailed, smoke filled the air, and panicked Council personnel scattered in all directions. The final stand. Fighting their way through the corridors, John and Riley reached the station's central archive chamber. Massive data cores lined the walls, glowing faintly with stored information. This was it, the heart of the Trade Council's power. Set the charges, John said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. Riley worked quickly, planting explosive charges on the main consoles. Meanwhile, John held off the guards who came streaming in, firing their shock rifles. The minutes stretched on like hours. The enemy forces were relentless, and the walls shook as more explosions rocked the station. The rebels were doing their part, holding off the reinforcements, and keeping the Council's fleet occupied. Finally, Riley slapped the final charge in place. All set. John activated the detonator, his hand steady. Time to end this. A galaxy unbound. They ran. The explosion ripped through the archive chamber, sending shockwaves through the entire station. As the core went up in flames, the station's systems began to fail. Power flickered, alarms died down, and the Council's communications went dark. John and Riley made it back to the shuttle just as the entire structure began to collapse. They blasted off into space, their shuttle narrowly avoiding the debris. In the distance, the rebel fleet retreated, their job done. The Galactic Trade Council's iron grip had been shattered. John watched as the massive station disintegrated, knowing they had dealt a blow that the galaxy would never forget. "We did it," Riley said, slumping into her seat, exhausted but victorious. John nodded, a faint smile on his face. "Yeah, we did." But he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would need time to rebuild, to heal. The fight wasn't over, but at least, for the first time, humanity wasn't running. They were standing tall.